Hello, everyone. Good morning. In case you just joined us, welcome to the C Morning Show right here on C Today. We're jumping into our first discussion where every year on July the 18th, well, not only July the 18th, but throughout the month of July, the world celebrates Nelson Mandela's life and contribution to human rights. The first democratically elected president in South Africa in 1994 had dedicated his life to promoting unity and justice, and his legacy inspires people worldwide to strive for equality and peace. This year, Nelson Mandela Day will be celebrated under the theme of It's Still in Our Hands to combat poverty and inequity.
And joining us today is the Ambassador of the Republic of South Africa to Indonesia, Timor-leste and ASEAN, His Excellency Ambassador Lekgoro, and humanitarian worker Hana Fauziyah to talk more about Mandela's legacy in South Africa and also around the world. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Ambassador. Good morning, Hana.
Thank you.
And we are going to talk about the
man.
the man himself. So His Excellency Mr. Lekgoro, Nelson Mandela's Month is celebrated annually, right? Not just daily, annually, with different themes related to his legacy. So what is the history behind Mandela Day and why is it celebrated every year?
Well, the day was declared by the United Nations in 2009, dubbed International Mandela Day. Since then, it's a day that is celebrated every year in South Africa over a period of a month. Basically, people remind themselves and renew within themselves the values that, Mandela represents, values of selflessness, service to people, fighting for freedom and justice, and people in different ways throughout the country in their different formations would find ways to express that during this day.
And definitely, Ambassador, that there is the Mandela Nelson, where we celebrated on July the 18th or throughout the month of July, and the goals since 2019 and 2029. And there are some initiatives, and that is education and literacy, food and nutrition, there's shelter, sanitation, and also active citizenship. And especially with the current team in the year 2024, it is still the hashtag, it's in our hands. Can you elaborate more specifically, especially for the initiatives and the values for this year's theme?
Yes. Poverty, the solutions to poverty, inequality are still in our hands. It's an expression that, as he said himself, Mandela, that like poverty, like colonialism, like slavery, like apartheid, are man-made. They're not natural. And it is within the ability of human beings to solve them. And what we mean by that is that people throughout the world, in their countries, must take it upon themselves, for example, to elect governments that would be seized with this issue. So when they go to the ballots, that is what they must bear in mind. People in their various groups, in their communities, must seek ways and means of contributing towards, ending poverty, always reminding themselves of the SDGs and what their contribution is towards that, and your political elites, your technocrats, your business people, when they are in multilateral organizations all over the world, they must make a contribution towards eradication of poverty.
Yes. It is definitely, it's in our hands, right?
It is.
And how we can tackle injustice and finding the equality in our life is basically throughout, it's in our hands.
It is.
It's our values and what our initiatives is.
Especially ending poverty.
And in life lessons too.
Exactly. But talking about Mandela Day, Mr. Ambassador, how do people in South Africa celebrate Mandela Day? Is there any best traditions or are there any activities specifically to celebrate it in South Africa?
There are, on the day itself, on the 18th, government and other bigger organization will take a lead at the national level to convene bigger gatherings in different ways to celebrate that day. Beyond that, people in their communities, in their own groups, will take initiatives to do community work. And that's what we now dub the 67 minutes of community service as an expression to renewing our, values towards community service. People will engage in whatever community activity they deem free. They may visit the hospital, make whatever contribution, visit the school, renovate the school.
Yes.
Such community services.
Yes, and definitely we're seeing right now in the world there is just a very hardship geopolitical issues right now that is happening throughout across the world and across the globe. And in that case, I think we have to shine a light on the values and the life that had been shined a light upon by Nelson Mandela, President Mandela. Now we're going to talk to Hana just a little bit in regards to how President Mandela has really pushing forward truth and also justice, especially in issues related to human rights, equality, and also racism. And we also heard there's the Nelson Mandela rules that highlight the rehabilitation program for prisoners. Can you please elaborate more of this such programs and also the relevance of this year's theme?
Yes, I think as we know that Nelson Mandela has spent almost his entire life in pursuing, promoting, advocating, and fighting against apartheid, non-racism, and also for the issues of human rights and justice. And this has inspired so many spheres in life, and particularly in the international world. For instance, in the justice area in 2015, the United Nations General Assembly has adopted the revised standard minimum rules for the treatment of the prisoners.
Okay.
And they were named after the Mandela rules. It is to honor the legacy of Mandela, as we know that he spent nearly 3 decades being imprisoned in a poor condition and in a poor justice system. So the Mandela rules is essentially like a blueprint, a universally agreed blueprint that is serve as a guidance for the prison management. Because as we know that prisons are often the overlooked population in our society.
Correct.
So it will serve as a guidance for the prison staff to treat the prisoners with humane, to safeguard their safety, humanity, and also their dignity. And there are about 122 provisions within the Mandela rules, but the key values are including the humane treatment, safety, and security and well-being of the prisoners, and also the rehabilitations that you mentioned earlier.
Right.
Now, these rehabilitation programs, as we know that prison is not only there to protect the society from the criminal offenders, but also to prepare the prisoners who will eventually reintegrate back to the society.
For their next life.
Yes.
Yes, and from my experiences visiting several prisons in Indonesia, it is interesting that rehabilitation programs are various, including the vocational programs, and they teach the prisoners so many life skills.
Yeah.
For instance, the barbershop skills, sewing skills, making batik pattern from scratch, including the barista, so they know how to make a good coffee. And this rehabilitation program is intended that when they reintegrate back to the society, they will acquire a new life skills and more empowered, especially in the terms of economy, because we know that statistically, many of the underlying reasons that people committed a crime is due to the economy reason. So this will help them to empower economically.
Yes, for the next life going on as well. It's always a second chance after that. right? Okay. So moving on, we're still talking about Mandela Day here. Mr. Ambassador elaborated how do South Africans celebrate it in South Africa, but is there any way that we can celebrate Mandela Day here in Indonesia?
Yes, I think I'm going to use one of my personal favorite quote from Mandela is that education is the most powerful weapon that can change, that we can use to change the world. So I think what we can do to celebrate Mandela and his incredible legacies is to first educate ourselves. Start with anything that you're passionate about. Start educating yourself, be it academically or practical life skills.
Yes.
And once we empowered, reach out to our community, reach out to the local volunteering community and share your skills and knowledge to them. So that for instance, if you're good at English, teach the younger kids English. If you're good at any life skills, practical life skills, probably like making a creative content for social media, share your knowledge to the others because you never know that it can empower the others too. And that other people can benefit from it economically as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, Hana, I think I want to go back, before we go back to you, Ambassador, also we were mentioning about the rules and how we can really change the ecosystem, especially prisons right here in Indonesia. You were mentioning before there are some changes, and definitely with the rehabilitation program that would be beneficial definitely for the prisoners for their next journey or their next second life. In Indonesia itself, through the Nelson Mandela rules, also discuss the minimum standard treatment for prisoners and has been adopted by member states. This is also including Indonesia. What is your take in that?
Yes, so as we know that the Indonesian government has well adopted the Mandela rules through several rules and regulations, and they have been developing several policies and regulations around the Mandela rules. And my take is that this is a way of Mandela's legacies to promote a humane condition for everyone walking in this planet, non-exception the prisoners, because they are also being part of society. And if the rehabilitation program are well implemented, these people, and usually based on the statistic that 70% of the prison populations are those with the productive age. So when these Mandela rules being implemented well, including the rehabilitation and reintegration program, they will get out of the prison not only empowered, but also become the productive member of the society. I think we have heard some news that ex-convicts has opened a barista or a new coffee shop, and they also invited their fellow ex-convict, and it empowers the society and also benefit economically from them.
And that's why I have my next follow-up question to you, Your Excellency Ambassador Lekgoro, and also to you, Hana. I think right now we're seeing still prisoners as a second-class society, and as we know, we have a pivotal, consequential figure right here, President Nelson Mandela, who served 27 years in prison, and after that, he served the country as the first democratically chosen president of South Africa. With that said, how can we as the public or the community, how can we give awareness for, let's say this prisoners come out from prison, right? They should be given that fully trust. You know, sometimes people seeing them as, oh, you know, can I still trust you? Even going back to their family, sometimes it's very hard. They would have kind of that, you know, second guessing if you're already okay or not, and if you're already a changed man or woman or not. So how can we educate and give awareness to the community that we should give the second chance and give them the 100% full trust? And hopefully they can be giving a positive impact for the community.
Well, I'm sure that could be done in integration with the families of the convicts, the prison authorities, the communities they come from, and to truly demonstrate from the side of the prison authorities to the communities how people over time change and become better people. And how society should be ready to absorb them when they are released. And of course, it's also upon the convicts to demonstrate that when they are out there in society. But I think it needs some integrated approach from both family communities and prison authorities and governments to put more effort in that direction. These are people that are born from our families, from our communities.
Yes.
They may have wronged the society in one way or the other, but if they've paid their dues and they have repented, I think it's the duty of everyone to, welcome them back to society and help them, go along. And
Yes. Break the cycle, break the stigma of this.
Yes, break
What-
the stigma.
Yeah, what about you, Hana?
Yes, I do completely agree with Mr. Ambassador that the very first homework is to break the stigma. And to do that, we have to continue promoting this awareness to our community as well. And this is not a one-person job. We need to engage all of the stakeholders, or using the pentahelix approach, the business community, the government, the academia, the society, as the community. And by using this approach, we should continue to promote that, hey, these people are human.
Yes.
They make mistakes, they learn from their mistakes, and they can still be part of our society, because after all, these people are part of our society as well once they release and get out of the jail. So what we can do is that continue promoting and raising the awareness to break the stigma from the society that is currently, unfortunately, still see them as the bad member of the society. But like what Mr. Ambassador has mentioned, people can change and do better if they were given the second chance. Some people statistically being imprisoned are usually due to committing petty crimes, small crimes. And they also because some of the underlying causes because of the lack of opportunities, lack of education. So when we give them a proper opportunities, educations, trainings, and in order to help them empowered and get out of the criminal cycles, I believe that they can be a productive members of the society.
Yeah, and I think that's our job as a society and also as human beings to do that as well, right? So let's talk about Nelson Mandela again. He left a lot of legacy. We talk about his rules as well. But on today's modern world, it is still applied, Mandela's legacy, especially in South Africa, Mr. Ambassador. If we are not mistaken, there's also the international version of Mandela Day. Is it different compared to the Mandela Month?
No, it's not different, although happening in different platforms. As you referred to today's geopolitical challenges, during Mandela's Day, it's a time to remind ourselves of Mandela's vision of a better world. And also within the vision of a better world, the reality that it is upon us to create it. And that is why in South Africa this year we celebrate that within the context of our 30 years of freedom. And we continue to remind ourselves that not everybody is free yet all over the world, and remind ourselves of Mandela's call to South Africans that South Africa is not free until Palestine is free. And we use that to rededicate ourselves to support the struggles of the Palestinians and the oppressed all over the world, with the belief that, good will finally triumph over evil.
And of course, Ambassador, we know that we will always be with you. We are celebrating with you. I mean, Indonesians and South Africa have this link, throughout our history. One of which, where President Nelson Mandela frequently wore batik from Indonesia, which was a gift of former Indonesian President Suharto. How do you see, the context and the viewing of, that picturesque of Indonesia and South Africa at that time, and now pushing forward to our present day today?
I mean, South Africa and Indonesia have historic ties.
Yes.
They don't date back from the visit of Mandela days, hundreds
Yes.
of years back. One of the remarkable moments of that interaction is when the great Sheikh Yusuf was abducted by the Dutch, then colonizers of Indonesia and South Africa, and banished him in South Africa, which, generated a community of Indonesians in South Africa who are still there to the present day. And Mandela's visit here was really a reconnection in that regard. And the batik, he introduced it in South Africa. Mm-hmm. We were all surprised what's wrong with our president wearing shirts and not suits. But we finally got used to it. And it was in South Africa, it's called Mandela shirt. It's not called the batik. And it's one of the finer, expensive shirts to buy.
Wow. Amazing. It is still replicating until today.
We cannot ask for a better batik ambassador than the Nelson Mandela himself.
That's right. And we've loved, and it seems that he was very comfortable at it. Mm-hmm. And it just makes us very appreciative with that. And with that said, Ambassador Lekgoro and also Hana, we would like to thank you very much. Again, there are so much values that we've seen through Nelson Mandela's Day as we're celebrating the month of Mandela's month in the month of July, and also specifically on the 18th of July. We're seeing that this very consequential figure that is still being very respected and still being loved until this present day and until forward because of his initiative and also his values and also his life values for his nation and to us to the world right here and as a citizen of the world.
That is right.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thank you so much.
You very much, Hana, for your time. And we're going to take a break right now.
And after that, we will return with the world headlines. Stay here on the C Morning Show on C Today.